Finally is multiomics. Now, as the name suggests, multiomics will be something that will involve, so till now we had, as I said, we had genomics, we had transcriptomics, we had proteomics. Now, we know that this is the flow of information, right, from the central dogma. So, if this is one layer, this is another layer of information, this is another layer of information. Multiomics tries to integrate across the layers of information. So, essentially it's integration of multi-omic data sets to allow us to understand how information flow takes place between the genotype to the phenotype at a genome level scale, at the whole genome scale, right. We are not talking about a single gene being transcribed into a single RNA, translated into a single protein. We are saying all the genes, which is genomics, all the transcripts, which is transcriptomics, and all the proteins, that is proteomics, are contribute, or let's say metabolomics as well, are contributing to the function or the phenotype. So, if you look at this, genome gives rise to transcriptome, gives rise to proteome, is also regulated by metabolome. So, you have the genotypic information, which is the direct readout of the DNA. Then you have the functional outcomes, which is the phenotype, which is the outcome from proteins and metabolomes, and that will give you integrating information across these omic data sets will give you a better understanding of how the function is changing, right. So, multiple data sets are currently available for multi-omic analysis. We have the lot of DNA data set, which is the genomic data set. This is epigenomic data set, again epigenomic data set. This is transcriptomic and this is proteomics, and it can allow integrating information across these layers of information can allow us to develop a more comprehensive understanding of how things are changing inside a cell when a cell moves from a normal state to, say, a disease state. This can also allow us to understand how to stratify patients, who are at more risk, who are at lesser risk, right, because that is important. If people are at more risk, then we should be more aware of those patients and be able to sort of take steps to mitigate their disease. It also helps in cell type characterization. This is something that we will discuss a bit later, because if you think of liver as a tissue, liver is not just one kind of cell. There are multiple different kinds of cells in liver, and by doing these multi-omic data analytics, you can actually stratify a particular tissue into different cell types. Because you are integrating information across layers of data sets, marker identification, which means what are the biomarkers that are specific for a particular disease, become more robust because we are integrating a large amount of data. And obviously, one of the things that we can do is we can get better understanding what would be the most appropriate drug target, rather than basing it on just one set. We will be able to see whether that particular drug target helps in changing the phenotype or the function, which is what we want. So, just to end the multiomics discussion, as I said, these are the layers that we talked today: genome, transcriptome, proteome, metabolome, and epigenome. Apart from that, there are few others, like for example microbiome, which we will not cover a lot, but microbiome analysis is becoming more and more common. Exposome is something that you are exposed to. So, for example, air pollution is an exposome, right? In cities with higher pollution, there is a higher incidence of respiratory diseases. That means whatever you are exposed to changes the way the other layers of data information change. And then in biological data analytics, something that we'll probably cover in some other courses is how imaging analysis is changing your diagnosis. Biosensors are upcoming. We have a lot of variables that do a lot of simply actually measuring your heart rate, nowadays oxygen concentration and even temperature. So these are biosensors. I talked about that biosensor which continuously measures your glucose level, blood glucose level, and those become additional pieces of information. So these ones are not directly related to central dogma, but these are also examples of big data that are being currently analyzed in clinical and medical research. So as you can see, when I began the earlier part, in the earlier part I was talking about which of the data is more complex, astronomical data or the genomic data. Astronomical data essentially is one layer, this imaging layer. Here we have different kinds of data sets, and each of the layer actually communicates not directly but not linearly but non-linearly across layers, and this makes the analysis of biological big data, which could be genomic, transcriptomic, proteomic, metabolomic or epigenomic or microbiomic, more complex, because we don't really currently have a complete understanding of how is the communication between one layer to another layer, and multiomics is helping bridge that gap, but that is something that is just starting. So these are exciting times for big data analysis in biology, and what we will do next is to sort of cover a few of the examples from genomics and transcriptomics, few examples of big data analysis that have been successfully completed in these two layers of information, and see how they have helped in getting a better understanding of the diseases that was not available before these technologies came in.